In the heart of eastern Nigeria, tucked between rolling hills and sacred forests, lay the humble village of Umucheta. It was the kind of place where morning roosters dictated the clock, and elders' proverbs carried more weight than any law. Life was simple, predictable, and woven with customs passed down like heirlooms. But one morning, the silence of dawn was shattered by the roar of car engines and the cries of children rushing to the village square. He had returned. Chuka, the boy who had once chased goats and fetched water from the stream, was now a man of wealth, draped in agbada stitched with golden threads. His convoy of SUVs kicked up red dust as it rolled into the village, the people gawking as they whispered in awe. Chuka was not just rich, he was blessed. After 2 decades in Lagos, he had built a business empire from the ground up. Electronics stores, real estate, transport lines, his name was etched across the city like a brand. Yet, despite his success, Chuka never forgot where he came from. His heart beat for Umucheta. As he stepped out of the car, the sun glinted off his wristwatch and the children cheered. The elders welcomed him with kola nuts and prayers, while the women ululated in celebration. That night, a feast was held in the village square. Fires crackled, goats roasted, and palm wine flowed freely. Drummers beat rhythms that summoned the ancestors, while dancers lost themselves in the music. Chuka sat on a carved stool at the center, his face glowing with joy and gratitude. "I have returned," he said in Igbo, raising his cup. "Not just to visit, but to bless this land that birthed me. My hands will build not just for me, but for all of us." And the crowd roared. True to his word, Chuka began transforming Umucheta. Within weeks, a new borehole was drilled, freeing women from the daily trek to the muddy stream. Next came a classroom block with solar panels, the first of its kind in the region. He rebuilt the crumbling market square with concrete stalls and tin roofs, then started sponsoring village youths to learn trades in the city. He employed locals to manage his farms and built a health center where the sick could be treated without traveling miles. His generosity seemed bottomless. But even as he gave, he remained humble. Every Sunday he knelt at the Anglican church, head bowed in prayer. He honored the elders and always greeted the palm wine tappers like brothers. He chose a quiet, respectful wife, Adeoma, a school teacher from a neighboring town whom he married in a grand ceremony, witnessed by nearly the entire village. Together they became the golden couple of Umucheta. People prayed for them, envied them, wanted to be near them. But not everyone smiled with pure hearts. Behind closed doors in a compound near the edge of the village, a man sat brooding. His name was Okafor, Chuka's uncle. Older, bitter, and childless, Okafor had once been the most respected man in the village. That changed the day Chuka returned. "Who is he to outshine me?" he muttered one night, staring at the distant lights of Chuka's new compound. "What charms has he used to rise so fast? I raised him when his father died, and now he walks as if I'm beneath him." A dangerous seed took root in his heart, one watered not by reason but by jealousy. Okafor was not just bitter. He was connected to forces unseen, old as the soil of Umucheta. While others prayed in churches, he whispered incantations under the Iroko tree, feeding the night with offerings of blood and kola. In his youth, he'd learned the craft of manipulation and dark power from his grandfather, a feared dibia. Though he masked his ways with Christian greetings, Okafor's heart remained tethered to darker things. He began slowly. First, he started whispering in corners. "Do you not wonder where Chuka's wealth truly came from? How does a man rise so fast without blood on his hands?" He stirred doubts, cast shadows on Chuka's reputation. Then one moonless night, he stood naked before a shrine deep in the forest. "I want him brought low," he said, voice trembling with hate. "Strip him of all he owns. Let his laughter become sorrow. Let the people turn from him as from a leper. I offer what is mine. Take it, but destroy him." The shrine demanded sacrifice. Okafor complied. Within weeks, things began to shift. First came dreams. Chuka saw his late father weeping, warning him of danger. Then one of his warehouses in Enugu mysteriously burned down, reducing millions in goods to ash. Investigations revealed nothing. Insurance denied the claim. Adaoma, his wife, fell ill. The doctors found nothing. Her body grew weaker by the day. Still, Chuka refused to believe the worst. "These are trials," he told the villagers. Even Job faced trials. But the people began to murmur. The very same mouths that once praised him now whispered behind his back. Too much wealth always has a cost. Night after night, Chuka could feel the air around him thicken. His sleep turned restless. His once happy home grew quiet, tense, and filled with unanswered questions. Then the nightmares began. He would see a shadowed figure at the edge of the forest, pointing at him with burning eyes. Sometimes the trees would speak in riddles, and his father's voice would echo, "Someone within is tearing you down." Every morning, he woke drenched in sweat. With Adaoma beside him coughing weakly, the village priest came. He anointed the house with oil, but the shadows remained. It wasn't long before more strange things started happening. Goats died mysteriously. Rain refused to fall over his farmland even while others grew lush. One of his trucks overturned on its way to Onitsha, killing the driver and destroying its goods. Chuka felt himself slipping. The final blow came on a sweltering afternoon. A call came from Lagos. His flagship electronics store had caught fire. Not a flame survived it. Staff escaped barely, but his investments? Gone. And insurance? Denied once more. Investigators found no clear cause. Then came the greatest heartbreak: his mother. The woman who had raised him with prayers and firewood on her head collapsed in her room. By the time Chuka arrived at her side, her eyes were already blank. Her last words, barely audible, were, "They want you to fall, but the gods still watch." Her death broke him. The whispers in the village grew louder. "Too much, too fast, it's rituals," they said. First the fire, then sickness, now death. It's more than coincidence. Some mothers began to keep their children away from his compound. Traders refused his money, offering forced smiles but suspicious eyes. The market he built empty. The borehole he dug locked for no reason. And Okafor? He stood tall, watching silently from his veranda. Chuka stopped attending the village meetings. He stopped smiling. The man who had returned in triumph now walked as a shadow of himself. Even Adaoma, once radiant with laughter, barely left her bed. Her illness, still unexplained, now had whispers of spiritual affliction surrounding it. The people began to fear him. They said he carried a curse, that whoever stayed too close might catch it. "His hands are stained," one woman told her daughter. "It is not normal, this kind of fall." Even the church began to distance itself. The reverend who once praised Chuka's generosity now said during a sermon, "The devil sometimes disguises as light. We must be vigilant." Each word cut deeper than the last. He tried to fight. He tried to stay strong, but the walls around him closed in. One day, as he walked to his mother's grave, he broke down. He wept like a child, falling to his knees in the red earth. "Why?" he cried out to the skies. "What did I do wrong?" That night, Chuka had a dream. His mother appeared again, only this time she was smiling. "You will rise," she said. "But not here. The battle must be exposed. The evil must speak its own name." The next morning, he visited the one person he'd been avoiding, Chief Nweki, a reclusive elder and former Dibia who had turned away from dark practices years ago. A man feared and respected, Chuka knelt before him. "Help me," he whispered. The old man looked into his eyes and said, "Your battle is not of the flesh. Someone near you drinks from the calabash of envy." Then Chief Nweki gave him instructions: fasting, prayer, and a secret cleansing ritual to be performed at the ancient shrine of truth, hidden in the forest. The ritual was not for the faint-hearted. It lasted 7 nights. Each night, Chuka fasted and bathed in the cold river before dawn. Chief Nweki burned herbs and called upon the spirits of justice. On the final night, a storm raged across the village, the kind that hadn't come in years. Thunder cracked as if the heavens were speaking. And then it happened. Okafor, the once proud uncle, was seen running barefoot through the village square screaming, his clothes torn, his mouth frothing. "Leave me alone," he shouted. "You promised me power, not madness." People gathered in shock. He fell at the church steps, trembling, eyes wide with terror. There in the pouring rain, he began to confess. "I did it," he screamed. "I cursed him, I destroyed him, I gave the shrine his name in exchange for respect and power. I burned his shop with fire from my mouth." The village stood frozen. The reverend stepped forward, demanding silence, but Okafor would not stop. He confessed to every act, the whispering, the sacrifices, the blood poured in secret places. Then he passed out. The news spread like wildfire. The villagers were stunned into silence. Shame fell on every tongue that had accused Chuka falsely. Children were told the truth, and mothers wept at their front doors. But the damage had already been done. Chuka's wife, Adaoma, was still weak. Their home had become a house of sorrow. Though the spiritual clouds had lifted, the loss remained. Too much had been taken. Chuka knew he could not stay. He called an old friend from the city, Ikenna, a loyal companion from his earliest business days. Ikenna came without hesitation. "We'll start again," Ikenna said. "Everything can be rebuilt, just not here." So Chuka and Adaoma packed what was left. The villagers gathered to beg for forgiveness, offering apologies and prayers. But Chuka, though gracious, said little. He looked one last time at the red soil of Umucheta, the land that gave him life and nearly took it away. Then he left. Okafor awoke in the parish infirmary, wrists bound with raffia rope an elder had hurriedly woven. The morning light sliced through the wooden shutters, illuminating the once proud man who now trembled like a lamb at slaughter. His confession had shaken Umucheta to its roots. The village square still smelled of last night's rain and exposed secrets. The elders met before dawn. Elder Mbakwe, "Our laws demand restitution, but the spirits have already answered. Reverend, we must show that the path of wickedness ends in ruin and that mercy is for the repentant." So they marched Okafor, still half mad, to the very Iroko tree where he had called on darkness. There he was commanded to pour libations of palm wine and break the kola nut of repentance. He wept, speaking a single plea. "Let the sunlight burn away my shadow." When the nut cracked, it split into 6 perfect pieces, an omen the elders took as acceptance of his remorse, yet confirmation that his power was finished. That same evening, he was banished from Umucheta for 7 seasons, to wander and seek forgiveness from every life his envy had scarred. As he limped down the red road, children watched in silence. The once feared uncle had become a living proverb. Jealousy builds no compound. Far away in Lagos, the night sky buzzed with generators and neon promise. Chuka and Adaoma arrived with nothing but 3 suitcases, a trunk of wedding photographs, and memories that felt heavier than iron. The city, however, still remembered his name. Faint echoes of past triumphs whispered among traders at Alaba Market. Ikenna welcomed them into his modest flat in Surulere. "My brother," he said, clapping Chuka's shoulder. "The soil that grows a tree once can do it again. We'll start small like before." Adaoma, regaining strength, tutoring neighborhood children on the veranda. Within months, they opened a humble electronics kiosk branded Phoenix Gadgets. Customers trickled in, drawn by Chuka's honesty and Adaoma's bright smile. Though profit was thin, gratitude was thick. Each night they knelt, thanking heaven not for what they'd lost, but for the courage to begin again. Word of Okafor's confession eventually drifted to the city like harmattan dust. One Saturday, Chief Nwiki arrived unannounced, leaning on his staff. He carried a white envelope sealed with red wax. "Chief Nwike, the village council sends you this. Compensation for the wrongs done." Inside lay a deed, title to 5 fertile plots outside Umucheta, and a formal letter of public apology signed by every elder and the reverend. Tears filled Chuka's eyes. "I wanted justice, not vengeance. Tell them I forgive." But the chief shook his head. "Justice without restoration is like a drum without skin." The land, Chuka decided, would become a scholarship farm. Profits dedicated to sponsoring village youths in vocational schools. A circle of blessing, forged from the embers of betrayal. 2 years passed. Lagos traffic still roared, but now billboards for Phoenix Holdings dotted the highway's new stores, a microcredit arm for small traders, and an NGO run by Adaoma for widows displaced by market fires. During a gala honoring young entrepreneurs, a journalist asked, "Sir, after such loss, what drives you?" Chuka smiled gently. "A seed knows its destiny is to rise again, no matter how many times the earth is turned over it." Unknown to the journalist, in the audience sat a familiar figure. Inspector Obi, lead investigator of the original Lagos fire. He approached afterward, cap in hand. "We reopened the file, sir. A warehouse worker confessed your uncle paid him. Insurance has reversed their decision. Payouts on its way. Divine justice had traced every hidden path." On the 3rd anniversary of their exodus, Chuka and Adayoma returned to Umucheta, not in a convoy, but in a single pickup filled with books, medicine, and solar lamps. The village met them with songs older than memory. The rain that falls on the just will soon return to the sky, and when it rains again, it blesses the earth it once denied. Okafor was still in exile, tending cassava in a distant hamlet, but he had written letters begging forgiveness and describing nightly visions in which he saw Chuka clothing him in white. Chuka read the letters aloud to the elders and said, "When his seasons are complete, let him come home, my door will be open." They dedicated the new Mama Uzoamaka Memorial Health Center, built on one of the returned plots. Children laughed at the borehole once padlocked. Water burst forth again, clear as morning light. The market stalls Chuka had raised, now painted bright blue, buzzed with trade. The fearful gossip of ritual was gone, replaced by a story of redemption elders would recount for generations. So you see, my children, greatness is not the absence of trials, but the way a heart beats when shadows fall. Chuka lost riches, yet he found wealth of spirit. His uncle sought power, yet met only emptiness. Remember, the strongest wall against evil is a soul that refuses to surrender.